All right.
Hello.
Hey, Charna. How are you?
Hi. Great.
Good to
Happy
see you.
Monday.
Happy Monday. Yes. Yes. Happy Monday. I was going to say good Monday, but that's probably something that I don't know of religiously. Okay. Let's do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another wild and woolly edition of our Daily Power Parsha. I am your host, Rabbi Sollish, and this is streaming live from Atlanta, Georgia, all around the world, and of course locally, to viewers like you. I don't know why this sounds like an NPR thing. Okay, folks, this is going to be a very interesting session because the Torah portion is Tazria. And Tazria talks about, interestingly enough, it's actually a double portion this week, Tazria-Metzora, and the dominant theme of this Torah portion, or these Torah portions, it's a double portion, is the idea of tsaras, which is translated typically as leprosy, but it was a biblical form of leprosy, which came as a result of various indiscretions, which we'll speak of soon. But you should know right off the bat the procedure for someone that was afflicted with tsarat is that they had to go into quarantine. Yeah, you can't make this up. Somebody that had tsarat was sent outside the camp into quarantine. And I'll tell you, for years I've been studying this Torah portion or these Torah portions, and it's meant what it's meant. But this year I really feel, what it was like to have, tsarat and be quarantined. But let's do this. Let's do this al haseder. Let's do this in order. So I want to begin by studying together the opening of the Torah portion. And I'll show you how it starts, because it doesn't start with tsaras, with the affliction of the biblical form of leprosy. It starts in a different place. It starts with the laws of childbirth and the laws of ritual purity and impurity, which is a very enigmatic topic. And so that's where I want to begin. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, wait, hold on one second. Let's add Rabbi to the room. Okay, good. I'm going to pull this up right now. Okay, at this point you should see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Yes? Okay, oh, I forgot, I muted all you guys. Okay, my bad. So feel free at any point in time. You can unmute as you wish and jump right in with any questions or comments. Again, the overarching theme of these portions, it's a double portion. Maybe I should mention that for a quick moment. Let me take 30 seconds to explain. There are 53 Torah portions in the Torah. Amongst the 5 books, we have 53 parshiot, 53 portions. Now, pretty much one is read every Shabbat of the year, but we don't have 53 weeks of Torah readings in a Jewish year. Number one, because Jewish calendar goes by the lunar cycle, which is very often less than 53 weeks, because there's only 354 days, not 365 days, in the lunar calendar. Number one, even when there's a leap year, there are holidays, Jewish holidays, in which we don't read the regular Torah portion. Like Passover, we didn't read Shmini. That's why we had 2 weeks of studying Shmini. So in order to get in all the Torah portions in less weeks, so we actually compress and we double up some of the portions. Certain ones are doubled up, certain ones are never doubled up. Tazria-Metzora is an example of portions that are often doubled up, and that's what we have this week. So we have a 2-for-1 special. So the overarching theme is the affliction of tsaras, which we'll speak about in a moment, but it begins with the laws of childbirth topic to explore. Okay, as you see right there, this is Leviticus, and God tells Moses to tell the Jewish people, and here's verse 2. If a woman conceives and gives birth to a male, she shall be unclean for 7 days, as in the days of her menstrual flow she shall be unclean, and on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. So we see a few things. Number one, we have this period of impurity. It says here it's translated as unclean. It's really, the Hebrew word is tam'ah, which is impure, which we'll speak about in a moment. We see a 7-day period. And we also see the idea of Brit Milah, circumcision, being at 8 days old. And then it says, and for verse 4, and for 33 days she shall remain in the blood of purity. She shall not touch anything holy, nor may she enter the sanctuary until the days of her purification have been completed. Basically, there's a period of impurity that lasts for 7 days and then for 33 days, which is a total of course, 40 days. Now, when it comes to, this is if the woman gives birth to a male. What happens if the woman gives birth to a daughter, to a female? So the Torah has a different set of guidelines. Verse number 5. If she gives birth to a female, she shall be unclean for 2 weeks. And then, if you look at the next, and then it says, and for 66 days, right? 66 days, she shall remain in the blood of purity. 66 plus 14, of course, is 80. So we have 40 days for giving birth to a male, 40 days of impurity for a male, and 80 days of impurity for a female. Now, a lot of these laws are relevant to biblical times and to ancient times when you had a temple and you had areas on the Temple Mount, for example, where you could only enter if you were in a state of ritual purity. If you were not in a state of purity, you could not go there. Again, today, it's not really so relevant. We don't have a temple. We don't have we don't have many of the areas of distinction for ritual purity and impurity are not relevant today, but some are. But I want to talk about the general notion of purity and impurity, because oftentimes it's misunderstood. And I'll tell you, I'll be very frank here, translations like these don't help. I don't mean to sound harsh, but translating impure as unclean doesn't help, because there's a misconception that impurity is a lack of cleanliness. And Torah is saying that the woman is unclean, whether it's with regards to a menstrual flow or whether it's regard to childbirth, that there's some sort of level of uncleanliness, where in reality, if you look at all of the commentaries, the literal commentaries, the allegorical commentaries, the mystical commentaries, it has nothing to do with cleanliness whatsoever. Rambam famously writes, Mark says his Rashi used the word impure. Yes, impure is a much better term. Rambam, Maimonides, famously writes that when it comes to the ritual bath, the ritual bath of purification, the mikvah, it has nothing to do with cleanliness. You can shower and bathe from today to tomorrow. It doesn't take the place of a mikvah. A mikvah is a ritual purification bath. It's not the same as clean. In other words, purity is not clean. Clean is not purity. And impurity is not unclean. Unclean is not impurity. It's a different thing. It's a spiritual condition. If you look through all of the triggers of impurity in the Torah, there is a common denominator. And again, this is something that is not well known. It's only not well known because, I don't know, it's not discussed maybe enough. And there's a lot of misconceptions around it. There's, it's like misogynistic. It's like, look, women are impure. Men can also get in a state of impurity. Impurity is triggered almost universally by one thing: loss of life. In an instance where there's a loss of life, that renders the condition, that generates a condition of tumah, of impurity. Nothing to do with physical cleanliness or good or bad. It's not a physical state, and it's not a judgment of good or bad or other. It's simply a state of that acknowledges a loss or a lack of life. So the classic condition or the classic catalyst of impurity is coming in contact with a dead body. If a person touches the corpse of a dead body, or walks into a house or into a building within which is a dead body, one is rendered impure. Male, female, young, old, it doesn't make a difference. The person is rendered impure. It's not unclean. It's not bad. It's coming in contact with loss of life. The Torah, we call Torah Torat Chaim, the Torah of life. if there's one thing that Judaism celebrates above everything else, it's life. And the biggest proof is that all Torah laws, pretty much, are suspended when life is at stake. If it's life or death, or the law, you override the law and preserve life. Except for 3 specific instances. You always override the law and you preserve life. Why? Because the law is meant to support life, not to take away life. And because Judaism holds life as the highest, it's the highest gift from God that we're meant to preserve. And therefore, Torah and Judaism always celebrates life, mourns death, acknowledges death, but never celebrates or glorifies death. And I want to spend, again, a minute to explain what I'm saying here. We live in a culture, and this is not a condemnation, this is just an analysis, and I'm pretty sure a factual analysis. We live in a culture, in a civilization, and a society that celebrates and glorifies death. In fact, in many prevailing American culture, there's a notion of dressing up a corpse with clothes and makeup and having an open casket, which is the notion of beautifying death. Judaism, I know we speak about Judeo-Christian values, it's not always the same. Judaism does not beautify death. Judaism does not sweep death under the rug either. But Judaism does not beautify death. Death is painful. Death is a loss. Death is a hole. Death is painful. There are specific mourning practices. Shiva, Kriya, we tear the garments. We observe the Shiva, the Shloshim, the Kaddish, many mourning traditions. Judaism is very much fully aware of death, but it doesn't glorify or beautify death. Life is to be glorified and beautified. Death is to be honored and marked and mourned, but not beautified and glorified. A civilization that beautifies death glorifies death. And we see that come certain times of the year, again, it's not a condemnation, I'm just pointing out a fact. Certain times a year you walk around the neighborhood, any neighborhood in the US, and maybe other countries as well, and you see death displays. Literally death displays. Decorations of death. This is something that wouldn't ever exist in traditional Jewish values. The idea of decorations that have death themes. But you have coffins, and you have skeletons, and you have these death symbols. And again, I'm not saying that everyone is aware and calculating exactly what it means, but it expresses a notion of glorifying, beautifying, commoditizing, whatever it is, death. And that's not a Jewish approach. Judaism takes the other approach, and that is it glorifies life, celebrates life, puts life on a pedestal. There's no idea of suicide bombers and martyrs. It doesn't exist. Yes, of course there were Jews that lost their lives because were killed because they were Jewish. But it's not something that's looked for or sought for. It's not considered the pinnacle of achievement in spirituality, in Jewish spirituality. We don't celebrate death, we celebrate life. Let me check in before I continue. Does this make sense what I'm saying so far? Yes? Ish? A little bit? Okay, good. Fine. All right, so that's point number 1. But Judaism very much wants us to be aware of death. And when death happens in any form of loss of life, we enter a state called impurity. Life doesn't go on as normal. We can't go, again, in ancient times, you can't go wherever you want. You can't go to the temple. Life does not just resume as normal after encountering loss of life. We take time. That's the secret of the opening mitzvah regarding childbirth. And I know what you're thinking. Childbirth is life. It's not lack of life. So why impurity? Because the mother who was pregnant had life growing and developing where? Inside of her body. And upon childbirth, a healthy child is born, please God, right? You have a child now, and so now the life continues outside of her, but relative to her body, there's a lack of life. Where there was life, there's now an absence of life. Anytime there's any form of absence of life, whether it's literal death, God forbid, or any other sort of interruption of life, or absence or cessation of life on any level, even very subtle, there's always a state of impurity. In fact, even after we cut our hair or nails, we're in a state of impurity. We have to wash our hands. There's a ritual hand washing that is meant to be done after that. So what this tells us, and why the hair and nails? Because it was growing, it was alive on some level. If it's growing, it's alive, and we cut it off. So now there's an absence of life. You had hair, if you saw me before Pesach, you know how long my hair was, right? You have hair going down a little bit, right? A few inches longer, and now it's cut. So there's a loss of life on some level. Nails, a loss of life. Childbirth, loss of life. And now we understand the secret. Why when a woman gives birth to a girl, the Torah says it's double the amount of time. Unmute yourself if you figured it out. Why is the mother doubly as long?
Female brings more growth in the future or joy or something.
Because the mother was carrying a daughter that also has the potential of life inside of her. Are you with me? Right? She was carrying, good, excellent, Donna. Because the mother who just gave birth to the daughter, she was carrying not just one life, but a life that can also carry life inside of her, potentially. Please God, right? So double life. That's why it's a double loss. Again, the child's healthy, please God, right? Everyone's healthy and fine. The baby, it's a simcha, it's a joy. But on some level, there's an absence of life. And Judaism, Torah law, tells us, pay attention to absences of life. Mark it. Life does not just resume as normal, as usual, when there is an interruption or some sort of shift in life. Take note, take pause, do a process of ritual connection, and then you can get back into the swing of things. This is true when it comes to something as simple as cutting our hair and nails. It's true when it comes to childbirth. This is true when it comes to various other things. And of course, coming into contact with literal death, with literal loss of life, that is certainly a trigger for ritual impurity. So again, I wanted to, first and foremost, debunk a massive misconception in Jewish law, which is that ritual purity and impurity is somehow something negative or, what's the word I'm looking for? It's demeaning or degrading. First of all, men are also impure. When they experience, again, without being too, without speaking, we don't have to speak, crudely about these things, but when a man emits reproductive seed, right? So that also renders a man impure because you have some sort of potential of life that is now absent from the body. So again, all of these things, as well as a woman's menstruation period, so which signals an opportunity for life that maybe that hasn't been that is no longer there on for that month. So the point is like this. The point is that every instance that we find in Torah, in Jewish law, when it comes to ritual purity and impurity, it's not something bad and it's not something unclean or shameful or anything like that. And I think that's sometimes the misconception. It's rather has to do with a potential for life or a presence of life that has been altered or changed or is now absent or is altogether missing. In any of these situations we have some sort of altering of life, that's when the state of tumah the state of impurity sets in. And it's a time, again, it's not a bad thing, it's a thing to reconnect. It's a trigger to then connect us once again with the source of life, which is God, by going through whatever ritual is there. And all the rituals are designed to get us to reconnect with the true spiritual source of life, God. Does that make sense?
Question, please?
Yeah.
Question.
Donna.
Back to what you were saying before about how in general society death is celebrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always not like the sugar skull. I think that's a prime example.
I don't know what
that's
that is.
It's a Mexican literal skull that's very it's colorful and decorated. It's used as a piece of jewelry. So basically, yeah, it's all over. It's a skull. It's in how sugar skull. That's it's making a skull pretty and fun. It's very prevalent in I don't. So that's why do you think they do that?
I don't know. I can't explain it. But you would never. That would never be a symbol in Judaism. Judaism doesn't have death symbols. I mean, you think I don't want to get very specific, but you think about even religious symbols that have death connotations. Judaism does not have that. Judaism simply does not put death on a pedestal like that. It doesn't. It celebrates life. Again, it doesn't pretend that death doesn't exist. It doesn't dishonor death. On the contrary, again, at least from the Jewish perspective, the ultimate honor of death is not by trying to make it something that it's not. You honor life, and in honoring life, you honor death, but you don't beautify death. Listen, I'm like editing in my head. How much should I say? How much should I not say? Look, a product of our culture is we glorify death in movies and I'm not stepping on a soapbox here. I'm just saying it's glorified in movies and it's glorified in pop culture and in video games, and it's a part of society. Death is scenes, where you see the blood and you see, and it's not a Jewish thing. I don't know who the producers are. Maybe they are Jewish. I'm just saying it's not a Jewish, it's not a Jewish value. Not the Mexican skull, and not anything that has a death symbol. Anyway. That's I don't want to be too preachy. I'm just saying that's just so there are things that are Jewish values and things that are not necessarily Jewish values, and it's good to know. It's good to at least have the information, and then we can. And I know what we're thinking, right? It's Halloween is all in good fun, and I get it. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. It's fine. I'm just saying it's just an indication. It's like there's subtle hints about a bit of a different perspective on what we're meant to glorify and what we're meant to mark, maybe in a bit of a different way. And Judaism has, I think, a very specific sensitivity toward life and death that is reflected in that manner. Okay, any other questions or comments? I think I want to mention one more thing. Yeah.
Question. So when you get your hair cut and you get your nails cut, do you go to the mikvah? Are you impure?
No. So there are different degrees of impurity that require different degrees of purification ritual. So cutting the nails and cutting the hair, you just take a cup of water and you pour it on your hands in alternating fashion 3 times. There's 3 on each side. Kind of like when you wash your hands for the bread, you do like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, alternating. Similar to the way that we wash our hands upon waking up in the morning. Oh, also because of that same reason. Okay, so the short answer is no mikvah for that. Mikvah is only reserved for I would say like deeper forms of impurities. Cutting the hair and nails is considered a more superficial form. Also, waking up in the morning is also impurity. Why? Because the Talmud tells us that when we sleep, it's 1/60th of death. It's a taste. It's called the taste of death. On some level, the soul is a little bit out of the body. A little bit. We're not in a normative state when we sleep, and when we wake up, it's kind of like life is resuming, right? We become aware once again. We become conscious. So to move out of that space of impurity of sleep, we wash the hands in the morning, back and forth. So again, that's also an indication. It's not bad, it's not dirty, it's not unclean, it's not misogynistic. It's simply acknowledging an absence of life on any subtle level. And Judaism says, oh, there's a shift in life on some level. Let's pay attention to it. Let's acknowledge it, and let's focus on reconnecting up. And they're different, but depending on what the trigger was, there are different forms. Again, I think the most beautiful and symbolic and rich is the idea of going to mikveh, which is a mitzvah for women, but also a custom. Many men have a custom and tradition to go every day to mikveh. I'll tell you now, with what's going on, mikvahs are closed pretty much. Women's mikvahs are open. Without getting into the details and exactly how they're doing it, there's a lot of protocol that's being put into this, and a lot of caution that's being taken for this, for those that wish to go. But in normal times, many men, it's certainly a Hasidic custom, go every single day to mikveh as a way of spiritually connecting, as a way of, kind of trying to shed spiritual impurities and any kind of disruptions of life on whatever physical or spiritual level that is, and to reconnect. It's a beautiful thing. Okay. And by the way, every community, it's the Code of Jewish Law says before a community buys a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll, they need to build a mikvah. So just so you know how important the laws of ritual purity and impurity are, a mikvah overrides and supersedes even a Torah scroll. And in Atlanta, there are many mikvahs, men's mikvahs, women's mikvahs, pot mikvahs for vessels and pots and pans, which is another conversation. Okay, I think I wanted to get to a few other topics, including tsaras, which is the biblical affliction that we typically translate as leprosy. But I think we're out of time. So we'll leave that for tomorrow. A lot of interesting conversations. We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up with the tsaras tomorrow. Okay, good. Any other questions, comments?
My comment is, I can't get with this. I'm having a really hard time. I don't understand how it's a loss of life in any real true sense.
Which
I'm
one?
Sorry, I'm struggling
Which,
with it.
childbirth?
The childbirth and the differentiation between giving birth to a girl versus it's complete life. It's life inside the body. It's life outside the body.
Right. On a very simple level, relative to the mother's state of carrying the child, right? So relative to that, there's an absence of life. Look, for 9 months, right? For 9 months, the child is, I don't know what the verb is, gestating? Is that the verb? The child is developing in the mother's womb. And now, it's not happening anymore. There's a shift. Listen, hold on. Can we all agree that there's definitely a shift that happens to the body of the mother upon childbirth? 100%, right? The mother was carrying the child. The mother's no longer carrying the child. It's a simcha. Both things are true. I think part of it is truly eliminating the notion that impurity is something bad. Because if we equate impurity with bad, then what we're saying is childbirth is bad, and that seems to be ludicrous. What I'm suggesting is this is the ultimate proof from the Torah that impurity is not bad. Impurity just is. It's a fact. Impurity is. It's just a thing. It's a state. And impurity is triggered by any state of shift of life. And so when it comes to childbirth, there's a shift. The child was gestating within the mother and now is no longer inside the mother. So for the mother, there's a loss of life. Not a loss of life, God forbid, like a real loss of life, but a certain absence, an absence of that life inside of her. And so, yeah.
Okay. I can't get with it. I don't know how the women on here feel about that who've given birth. It's very hard concept to.
As a guy, I'll tell you this. As a man, I can totally get behind this. I'm kidding. That's a joke, by the way. That's a joke.
Of course.
That's a joke. I'm joking. I don't know. Leah and I have discussed this before. I'll tell you. Like, Leah and I have discussed this before. I've never maybe I should bring her in from the other room or something. I know what she's doing. Bring her in. Let's get her take on it. I don't know. To me, it's not a bad thing. It's not a
I'm
bad.
not saying it's bad or good. I just can't get with the explanation of life piece. So that's the piece. That's it. It is what it is.
All right. Listen. By the way, again, the Torah almost like nudges us, like pushes us into this way of thinking, because it tells us about impurity with childbirth. What kind of impurity? Right? There's life. What kind of impurity? And it tells us that for a girl, it's double the amount of time. That's why, first of all, nothing that I'm sharing with you today. I probably should. I'm telling you what the commentaries say. The fact that Torah deems childbirth to be a trigger of impurity, and the fact that girls are literally double the amount of time of impurity as boys when they're born, right? That tells us that it's all about the potential of life, or the life inside. So the mother carrying the daughter has double life. By the way, I think it's a positive message. It's look at how much life there is. Not only one life, there's two lives. Really more than two lives, because please God, it's infinite lives. But I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing not to mourn childbirth, God forbid, but to note that there's been a shift in life. It's a new stage. By the way, Judaism looks at death also like that. Not to get like morbid, but it's also a new stage in life. The soul was in the body, now the soul's not in the body. The soul's still alive. So the child was in the mother, now the child's on its own. What I'm saying is, I think Judaism has a bit of a different take on life itself, and therefore has... Anyway, all right. I don't know that I'm going to be more convincing than I've been so far. I'm just telling you what the good books say, and as we internalize it, listen. I think maybe what would be helpful is if we have a takeaway. So, what's a good takeaway? I don't know. I haven't thought of one yet, but maybe I could think of one quickly. What's a good takeaway? A good takeaway is, I think, let's celebrate life. It's not an original takeaway. I said it before, but let's do everything that we can, even within the restrictions and constraints that we have currently with what's going on. Let's be mindful of living life, not just going through the motions, but really living and accomplishing and celebrating life and helping others celebrate their lives. That might be a good thing. Who knows? It's crazy enough to work.
I would just say that I don't know about your notion of purity and purity, but it's a beautiful feeling of renewal when you go to the mikveh.
Yeah. Total immersion. Yeah.
It's really, really special, so I can see, after birth, or be good for the mother.
Yeah. It's about reconnecting with the whole source. Yeah, a lot of powerful Kabbalistic insights into mikvah. I had planned in the beginning of the year to do a mikvah crawl, which sounds weird, but it was based because people do pub crawls. This would be a mikvah crawl in Atlanta, and I recruited Miriam Lipsker from Chabad at Emory to lead it. She does a lot of mikvah tours in various places around the world, around the country. And she was going to lead it, and the logistics, we weren't able to work on the logistics, but at some point we'll put it back on the calendar to do this, to go around some local mikvahs, check them out, see the differences, different communities, different mikvahs, maybe go in a limo with some drinks, whatever, do like a mimosa and mikvah tour. What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong?
The Rabbi used to go every day.
Wait, are you asking?
Yes.
No, my understanding is the Rebbe did not go every day.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. But many Hasidic people, Chabad, go every day. Yeah.
I was going to ask about twins,
Yes.
but I kind of want to end it on a more positive note.
Well, no, twins are very positive. What do you mean, double? You know what you call twins?
Double girls. Oh, yeah.
What? So I'm not sure.
120
To be honest, I'm not sure if you stack it back to back or if it's all included. I'm not sure. But you know what you call twins, right? Womb mates.
No.
Womb mates.
Oh.
Ay, gewalt. I know, terrible.
I like it.
Yeah, I do what I can. Anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. I don't know what the right word is. If you could do them at the same time, or if they need to be kind of concurrent.
Concurrent or
or what's the opposite of that? I don't know.
Staggered.
Whatever. Anyway, to be determined.
Concurrent or consecutive.
Consecutive, yeah. All right. Listen, we don't have to have all the answers. Just all the questions is good enough to have. Oh, by the way, I should mention, tonight, for those interested in Mimer Mondays, we're on hiatus, if that's the right word, this week for Monday nights and for Tuesday nights. But Wednesday night, we're back on with Torah study. First of all, daily power Parsha, 12 o'clock every day, we're on. Rain or shine. Well, we're all quarantined anyway, who cares, right? Rain or shine, we're on 12 o'clock Monday through Friday. Monday nights and Tuesday nights are starting next week with some exciting new programming, which we're about to release the information, so stay tuned with email, Facebook, etc. Wednesday nights this week, though, we are on Torah studies at 7:30 p.m. Thursday nights, brand new, we're launching our Tanya at Home series. Mark is very excited, I know. We're launching our Tanya class, or relaunching our Tanya class. We are calling it Think Different. Think Different. The Wisdom of Tanya. And that is starting on this Thursday night at 8 p.m. So stay tuned for all the details and the links for that. That's it.
Nice.
By the way,
I want to know where Navi, where are you connecting from? Israel? I cannot hear.
Hey,
I cannot hear you.
Navi, unmute yourself, or I can unmute you. I just unmuted you.
No, she's still muted.
Oh, okay, now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem. I'm going to give you a view of our 14th floor.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw I think yesterday or...
Gorgeous.
I could see the beautiful view during the day, so I was guessing it was, you're lucky. Wow.
Yeah, nice to meet you all. This is a big treat because I follow Rabbi Ari, and now I get to be in your class, which I would never be able to
Oh, that's
do.
awesome.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Very nice, awesome.
I mean, I hope to come take a...
Israel connection.
That's
Nice
great.
to meet you all.
It's great to see you. Great to meet you. Great to see you.
And and we're quarantined with a lot of people, so it's good to take a break.
Yes, I know the feeling. All right,
Okay,
cool.
exactly.
Good. All right, well, great. Yeah, live. See, we
Okay.
got an international crew here. That's how we roll.
That's right.
That's how we're rolling.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good to see you. Yes, good night. Bye, everyone. We'll see you not later tonight, but we'll see you
Bye, Yashua.
tomorrow, and then stay tuned. Stay tuned. Oh, I wanted to mention one more thing. We're doing a one-part series, special event called, what is it? What are we calling it? It's going to be called, hold on, I have the word information here. Hold on. No. Oh, a Hasidic home tour event. Stay tuned for that. You know, like HGTV tour of homes or whatever it is? We're doing a Hasidic home tour. It's going to happen next Tuesday. Breaking news. Stay tuned for that. Okay, good. I'm signing out, and have a good week. Sorry, have a good day and a good week. Why not? I don't want to take that away either. Have a good day, and hopefully we're all inspired to live the life that we're meant to live today, or something like that. All right, good stuff. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Rabbi.
See you all. Pleasure. Good to see you all.
Yashkoach.
All right, take care.